last week we were talking about the Antichrist. We are in chapter 13. For those who, I think all of y'all were here last week, weren't you? Were you here last week? You were. But I'm thankful that we got this on the Facebook and YouTube, and if y'all need to go back and look at those things, please do. I wish that we had the beginning of Revelation. That got erased, sadly. Not our fault, but but we it will definitely have caught you up to certain things. But I am thankful that you're here and going through this. And like I said, we're in Revelation chapter 13. We talked about the dragon, how the dragon is Satan. He is stands on the seashore, and out of the sea comes the first beast. And we talked about how in chapter 13 verse 8 that all who dwell on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain. That's Jesus Christ. And we talked about this book, talked a little bit about this book, that from the foundation of the world God has chosen us, and we are in the book of life. And those who are chosen will not worship the beast. They will persevere. They will go into captivity. We see either go into captivity or be killed by the sword. And so we see that they will not worship the beast because we have the Spirit of God that dwells within us. Because we have everlasting life. Everlasting life means everlasting life. It means that you cannot lose it. It is everlasting. Okay? So once you have it, you don't lose it. And you have been chosen from the foundation of the world. Your name has been written in the book of life of the Lamb. And we'll see that also, I think, in chapter 17. I think we see that again, where they'll talk about that as well. But anyways, we see that where we left off last week is that those who are chosen, who are in the book, will suffer persecution. We will suffer persecution. We will go into captivity, and if anyone kills with a sword, you'll be killed. You go into captivity, but again, you're destined for it. If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with a sword he must be killed. And again, it lays it out. Here is the perseverance or the endurance and the faith of the saints or the holy ones. Okay? So, now we're getting ready to go into verse 11 through 18. 11 through 18 is a very interesting piece of passage here. Let's go ahead and read it. It says in verse 11, "Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon." Now, what we see here is another beast. Again, we had the first beast. We've got the dragon. We've got the first beast that comes up out of the sea. We've got the second beast, or the third beast. Dragon, first beast, second beast. We'll call it that, okay? Dragon, first beast, second beast. But the second beast comes up out of the earth. Now, this, again, not really sure exactly what a lot of scholars have tried to figure out what it coming up out of the earth means. Again, I'm not really sure. Most scholars speculate. When they do give you an answer, they're going to speculate. I'm just going to stay silent on it because there's not really any kind of anything in the Bible that I can go to that will point us to something of that coming up out of the earth. We do know that he has two horns like a lamb. So this beast is like a lamb, or has horns like a lamb, and he speaks as a dragon. So he's speaking the words of Satan. So what you see here is kind of like the Antichrist Trinity, right? You got Satan, you have the Antichrist, and you have this other beast, which we will call the false prophet. Okay, this is the false prophet who was referred to. It would be something like Aaron and Moses, right? You've got Moses who goes and does these great wonders. You know, God does great wonders through him. But you've got Aaron, who is the one who is the high priest. Or it would be something like Elijah and God. You've got Elijah on the mountain with all those false prophets, and he brings down fire, or God sends fire down and laps up all of the water and the sacrifice itself. But you've got the word being spoken through Elijah. So again, this is what you're seeing here is you've got a false prophet who will be directing people not to God, right? But directing people to worship the beast, right? That the first beast. Okay? So what we've got here is that he has two horns like a lamb. These are small horns. So he doesn't have much authority, let me put it that way. We're not talking about a kingdom or any kind of rule. All right, so these horns are like a lamb. I think it makes it look like it makes it look innocent, right? Like this. If he's a false prophet, then he's going to come in like a lamb, or he's going to look like a lamb, but he's definitely a wolf, right? So because we see here that he speaks as a dragon. So what he's doing is he's speaking the words of Satan. Okay, Satan the dragon, and he is speaking the words of Satan. Listen to what he does. He exercises all authority of the first beast in his presence. Okay? Or by his authority. And so he's exercising all of the authority that he has is to the first beast in his presence. He makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast. That's his goal, is to get everyone to worship the first beast, the Antichrist. Okay? This abomination of desolation, this son of perdition. So that's his goal, is to get everybody to worship the Antichrist. He performs, let's see. He makes the earth and those who dwell in it. Okay, this is everyone. This is not just it's not just an area. We're not talking about just an area of people, but we're seeing he makes the earth. Okay, makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast. Now we see here whose fatal wound was healed. Okay, and we talked about that last week, about that fatal wound being healed, possibility of an assassination, but something happens where that first beast dies in some way and then comes back to life. But we see here that who knows, it may be the false prophet that brings him back to life. But we see here that he makes people worship that beast whose fatal wound was healed. And another thing he does here, he performs great signs. Why? So that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. That's an interesting thing. When you think about it, when we were talking about Elijah and all of those prophets, the whole point was for when those prophets were, they were there the first. I don't know if y'all heard that story. How many people have heard that story? Really? Wow.
What story?
About Elijah and the prophets on Mount Carmel. I think it's Mount Carmel. So there's like all these false prophets, hundreds of false prophets, and so it was a time between where Elijah is saying to the false prophets, if it's kind of like almost like a competition, right? I wouldn't say a competition because we know God's the winner, but when it comes to this, what had happened was they build this altar, and we're going to see whose God is God, basically, and so they build this altar, and they put all this stuff on it, right? And then and Elijah lets them go first, right? All the false prophets go first, and all day long they're out there dancing around this sacrifice altar, and trying to get the fire to come down, and they're praying, they're cutting themselves, they're like I said, they're dancing around, and in fact Elijah starts to taunt them and say, that maybe your God's asleep, or he starts saying things like maybe he's indisposed, in other words, he's on the toilet type of thing. And so he's really taunting these, I think there's about 400 of them, and so he's taunting them, and they give up, right? And then it's Elijah's turn, and so he tells them to dig a trench around the altar, and they dig a trench around the altar, and he tells them to fill up the trench. So they fill up the trench with water, and then he tells them to pour all the water on top of the altar and let it run down into the trench. So they take all that water and they pour on top of the altar, and then he prays to God, and fire comes down from heaven and laps up every little drop of water and the sacrifice and everything. And then Elijah tells the people, as they begin to worship God now, the one true God, he tells the people to take these 400 prophets and kill them. So they did. So right there on the spot. So again, but what you're seeing here is fire coming down out of the sky, right? And that was something done by God. So Satan couldn't bring fire from the sky. But we see here that he's been given some sort of authority. And I'm not really sure if this is something that is deceptive in some way. It really doesn't say. All we do know is that he performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth. So I don't think it's some sort of magical thing. I think God is allowing this to happen. I think because of God's allowing this delusion. Remember what we talked about in 2 Thessalonians, how he causes people to worship. He gives them a delusion. And again, I think it's what he does, allowing or giving this false prophet some sort of authority to come down, or to call fire from the sky, and have some sort of great power where he does wonders that everybody kind of is just enamored by him, right? And they just flock to him. But we see here, he says that he makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. He deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs. Okay? He's deceiving those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which it was given him to perform. Now there again, there it is. It was given him. Okay? So there's an authority that has been given to him. And you know that if anything has been given to you, or to him, or to anyone, it's by God. So I'm thinking there's an authority that's been given him to perform this. And it says here that the signs which was given him to perform in the presence of the beast. Okay? So he's doing this in the presence of the beast, pointing people to the beast. Right? He's doing these signs for the purpose of pointing them to the beast. He's telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. Now here we see a little bit more in depth that this beast had a wound of the sword and has come to life. Okay, so he was dead and he has come to life. All right, so we get a little bit more detail in that. Then it says, and it was given to him, to give breath to the image of the beast. Now this is pretty interesting. So it's an image that he has caused the earth dwellers, or the people of earth, right? He tells them, telling those in verse 14 who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, right? It was given him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. All right? So what you got here, and this is kind of a crazy image if you think about it. We're talking about an image of the beast. What is that? What is that? Is it a statue? It is an idol, right? Because it's an image of the beast, of the first beast, right? So, but the crazy thing about it is that he brings it to life. So they make this image. He causes people to make an image, right? Now, is this AI? Does he cause people to make that sort of image and bring this thing to life? I don't know. You think about it, is it a statue that all of a sudden begins to speak? We're not really sure. All we do know is that it is an image. It was not, as far as like it's not alive, right? But he causes it to come to life, and to even speak. It's kind of weird when you think about it. And here's the thing. It was given him to give breath to the image of the beast, right? So he gives breath to the image of the beast. He brings it to life, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause, here it is, cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So if you don't worship this image of the beast, you will be killed. If you don't worship the beast, if you don't worship the image of the beast, again, you'll be killed. And we see who he causes all the small and the great, the rich and the poor, the free man and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. I'm going to read that again. He causes all, the small and the great, the rich and the poor, the free man and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. Now, again, is this an image that we'll be able to see? I would say yes. I believe that there is an image, and the reason why I say that, because in verse 17 it says, and he provides that no one will be able to buy or to sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay? So now we're seeing something here that is quite scary, right? When you stop to think about it. You've got someone who's causing everybody to get a number or a name printed on their right hand or on their forehead. Now, again, think about what is taking place, all right? When you name somebody, when you brand somebody, what are you doing? Like if I go out here, I've got cattle, right? I've got all these cattle, and I go out there and I brand my emblem. I brand them with my emblem, and what am I saying? These are mine, right? You're giving them, you're saying to the world and everyone that I have authority over these. Those are my cattle. Again, we saw this with God as well, right? We talked about this with God. What does he put in our forehead? Right? You remember? I don't know if y'all were here when we were talking about that. But again, ownership, right? This is what we're talking about. Ownership. When God has branded or put his name in your forehead, right? And not only his name, but where you live. And where you live will be Jerusalem, right? That's going to be your residence. Again, will that be something that we see? I don't know. But as far as the mark of God, but again, I want to be under his name. I want to be under his authority, right? I want to be his. And again, it's when you are branded, you are put under his ownership. Okay? So we see this marking. Remember we talked about the 144,000, how they were marked. We'll talk about them next time, chapter 14. But we see how they were marked, right? Before all the calamity, before all the judgment came, God said that he's going to save these 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe. And these men were going to be men that did not speak lies or have been with women. They're virgins. So, but they have been marked, right? So that when all hell breaks loose, right? When God starts bringing judgment on the earth, these people will be excluded because they have God's mark on them. These are my children. You leave my children alone, right? And you're only going to affect those who have the mark of the beast. Remember we talked about this with the, remember the locusts? Y'all remember the locusts coming up out of the abyss? And let's see. Let's go back to chapter 9, just to refresh our memory. The fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star from heaven which had fallen to the earth, and the key of the bottomless pit was given to him. He opened the bottomless pit. Smoke went out from the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. Then out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth. The power was given to them as the scorpions of the earth have power. They were told not to hurt the grass of the earth, nor any green thing, nor any tree, but only the men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Right? So they were not permitted to kill anyone, but to torment for 5 months. And their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, and death flees from them. Then he goes on to explain the appearance of the locusts. And but again, those who were marked by God, those are his children. He leave those children alone.
That's the 144,000.
That was the 144,000, yeah. And again, remember that well, I won't go into that. We can go back to old. I think we do have chapter 9 and stuff like that, but you can go back to all of that. So what we see here is there is a mark given to people, and for the purpose of ownership, right? But here's the thing: you cannot buy or sell anything unless you have this mark. So you're basically stuck, right? You're frozen. Just recently, and again, this is not. I'm not saying that this is the mark or anything of that nature, but I do want to kind of give you a little understanding of what's happening in our world today. They have I think it's called the FedNow program. Have y'all heard of that? It started. Most people haven't heard it. It is a currency that goes through the government, and it is what all the major banks are wanting to go to. They talk about security. They talk about how easy your life will be to go through this FedNow program. And it has already started. And in fact, it started April the 11th, I think, was the starting date. And you guys saw that in the news, right? No, absolutely not. You're not going to see anything like that in the news. And but they're starting to implement it towards right now in May. And so what it is a currency of the United States. It's it's not, there's no tender, there's no paper, coins, or anything like that. Everything that you give to people will go through this FedNow, this through the federal government. They will track everything that you give to people. That you'll be unable to give tips without them being tracked, or gifts without them being tracked, and things like that. And again, it's to take away your freedoms, right? That's the whole point, is to take away your freedom. I have freedom when I have cash in my hand, and I want to give somebody cash, and I give them a gift. I don't have to claim that, and they don't have to claim that, right? Again, they'll talk about how, but think about all the drug dealers you can get rid of, and all of that stuff, and why would you even care that the government knows how much you're giving. You know, why would you? And I think back to a certain time where a bunch of truckers up in this cold area, I can't remember where it was. Oh yeah, Canada. And they were protesting, and the government of Canada did not like what they were protesting, and so they shut them down by freezing their assets, by freezing their money, and it basically stopped the protest. I mean, but again, everybody is just willing to give up their freedoms, right? It's just the world that we live in today, and it just makes it so much easier. We're just talking about security. We're just talking about security. We're just talking about, less identification stealing, right? I mean, all this other kind of stuff. They're going to give you all this stuff that make it sound really good. But in reality, what's happening is that they're taking away your freedoms. And eventually it'll be a one world currency. And eventually it'll come down to this, where if you don't have this, you don't have cash. Who cares about gold? Who cares about silver, right? We're not talking about gold or silver anymore. You know, you're not able to buy or sell with gold. So there goes your buy gold now type thing, right? And I hate to paint this ugly picture, but again, this is what it's going to come down to, where it's just going to be a mark, whether you have this mark on your forehead or on your right hand. And again, you can't buy or sell without it. And those who don't take it, right? You go into, what is it, captivity or death? Basically both. So, I know it's a bleak picture, but it's just the way it is when it comes to this time. No one, in verse 17, he provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast, again, we'll see the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now, verse 18 is very interesting. It has caused men from generation to generation to try to figure out what this number is. This number, and let's read verse 18, because it's the number of his name, okay? Here is wisdom, right? Here's the wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate or count the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. So this is the number that you will have on your hand or on your forehead, okay? Or you will have the name of the Antichrist. Now, again, like I said, scholars to this day are still debating on what this number is. And there is a Jewish process that they number. Everybody's name would have a number, right? I think it's the way it is like the first 9 letters are have a number, 1 through 9, or 1 through 9, or 0 through 9, I think is what it is. And then the next numbers have 10 through 90, right? This is the way it works as far as and what it's called is gematria, or gematria, or whatever. It's gematria, or GMATRIA, or something like that. Anyways, it's a way that they would count the somebody's name, and each name would have a number, right? Now, I don't know if this is, I don't know what the purpose of it is, to be honest with you. I listen and I sit there and I listen to it and I'm like, well, it's confusing for one. And as I sit there and listen to it, I'm like, well, it doesn't make much sense. Why? And why do they number the names and things like that? Like for instance, Nero's name came up as 666, right? Again, these things. Here's what I think. All right. We're not going to understand this until that time comes. And in all honesty, I really believe that we are not going to understand what this number means, because it says here, calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man. Again, what does that mean? A lot of people believe that because we were created on the 6th day, right? And the 7th day God rested, that this is it right here. This is the number of man. I don't see that either. I mean, what's 666? I mean, what's that? When you put Jesus' name in there, in that gematria thing, his number comes up to 888. So again, what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, what's the purpose, right? But I do know that we'll know when that time comes. A lot of people will say, like I remember seeing for the first time the barcodes. Not barcodes, I'm thinking the barcode. Barcodes are on a guitar, and that's what I was thinking of. But the barcodes on every product, right? Barcodes are on every product. You go worldwide, you're going to see these barcodes, right? The barcodes, I think the first part of the barcode shows you where it came from, and the second part kind of shows you what the product is. But the interesting thing of it, if you look at all those barcodes, right, that are for sale, you'll see the two little lines that make a 6, and then in the middle you'll see the two little lines that make a 6, and then at the end you'll see the two little lines that make a 6. So what happens is the laser, when you laser it, right, you swipe it across, it reads, it turns on and reads by that 6. It reads the first part, turns off at the next 6, and then reads the second part, and then, or something like that. There's a process that happens where that 6 causes it to read, and then ends it. I think that's the way it is. Again, if you look at those barcodes, you'll see it, and you'll go, like I did years ago, and go, oh yeah, this is it right here. This is the mark of the beast. Again, I was wrong. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Don't speculate. Don't worry about it until that time comes. And here's the thing. If you are a Christian, you won't have to worry about getting it, or a lot of people think that, I mean, you think about even today, there's these little implants that people get, and they can turn on their computers, or they can open their house with this little implant, and or they can, walk into their office, their secure office, because they have this implant. The doors open, and then when close behind them, and that kind of thing. That's actually taking place. That's going on today, which is a little weird. I mean, it's a little rice-size sensor or whatever, RID chip. Is that right? RID chip? Huh? RF, yeah. RFID, whatever, yeah. Again, that I think that's a little weird. And people would say, oh yeah, there's the mark of the beast. And then we had the old, you know what? Because if I say it, they'll take me off YouTube. But you know, it was something that, like, here, you know, I don't know if y'all remember that a couple of years ago. And everybody's like, oh, this is the mark of the beast. You got to take this or you won't get to work, and that kind of thing. Well, that did happen. And a lot of people lost their jobs, right? And servicemen were thrown out of the service. So again, but it's all speculation, right? This is all speculation. We will know when that time comes, because we know. Let's go over it, review it here. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate or count the number of the beast. For the number is that of a man. We'll figure that out. And his number is 666. It's the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay? It's the name of the beast or the number of his name. So, just know that it will be a visible or something able to censor or to know, you know, that you have it. But it is a marking of ownership. Now you think about this. Who provides all things for everyone? God, right? When you think about God providing all things, and when he says to you, I will give you your food, I will give you your drink, right? If you thirst, come to me, I will give it to you. If you hunger, come to me, I will give it to you, right? He says that. Christ lays it out and it says this. If you hunger for me, I will give you what you need. I will provide for you. Now we've got somebody that comes along and puts a mark on everybody and says to you, I will be your provider. I will take care of you. If you have this mark, you will have everything that you need to survive. You will live. You will live if you have this mark. Right? Again, it's a falseness, a false sense of security. We are so caught up in the government providing things for us, even today. When you think about that, we look to the government to provide so much, and when knowing that they can't, knowing that they fail in every turn. I mean, you could see that at the DMV. Just go stand in line at the DMV and you're like, good night. Or, you know, and you watch these things take place in the government and you see the corruption and things like that, and you see how much money it takes, and you see all the corruption in that as well, where that money goes. But more and more we're seeing people rely on an entity to take care of them, right? Instead of a God to take care of you, a God to provide for you. You see, that's the line here. Who's going to provide for you? Right? Who's going to provide for you? Well, we know as believers that God provides all things for us. Remember what he said. This is the promise. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. What is he talking about? All these things that will be added unto you? Food, clothing, and your drink. Everything you need. Everything you need, he provides for you. But what you've been called to do is to seek his kingdom. To go out and seek after his kingdom. Look for his kingdom. Gather the kingdom. Remember what Christ said. This is the reason why I came, to seek and to save those which were lost. Right? That's the whole point. We go seek the kingdom of God. And on top of that, we seek his righteousness. right? We're seeking his righteousness. We want to be like him. We want to walk like Christ. We want to be as Christ, right? We want his righteousness that covers us, right? As a believer, we are covered in his righteousness, and we seek more of it daily. I want to look more like Christ daily, and I want him to provide that, which he does through his Holy Spirit. He provides that. He sanctifies us. He cleanses us from all unrighteousness, right? So what we're seeing here is this provision. We see a false provision that will take you straight to hell, or we see a provision that will give you life, right? That's the beauty of it, is that you seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. So again, we see these bleak times coming, and we're going to see more and more people that are clamoring for this beast, for this Antichrist. And he's going to have a false prophet that keeps pointing, that keeps moving people to him, focusing on him, and then taking away their life, basically. We'll see this in the future here in a couple of chapters, where them taking this mark means that they were no longer able to have salvation. They will no longer, they have signed their death warrant by taking this mark. So again, it is a bleak time, but you're going to see God's judgment coming upon that. And we'll start in chapter 14 next week as we see Christ standing on Mount Zion. This is a beautiful, beautiful picture with his 144,000 having his name and the name of his Father written on their foreheads. Again, it's an amazing time, but do you have any questions? Now's the time. We can answer, or maybe not. Yes.
When you said, when we were talking about the second beast, you said it didn't have authority, correct? You don't believe that it's a person of authority, like a king or a leader or a ruler or anything like that?
He's more of a false prophet that has no like kingship, but his authority is given to him by the what does it say here? He speaks to dragon. He exercised all authority of the first beast. So the dragon is giving that authority to that first beast.
Yeah.
Remember that? And he's exercising all the authority of the first beast in his presence.
But then the question I'm asking is, follow the next sentence. Is,
Right.
And he makes the people of the earth, or the earth and all the people worship. Is that word make, meaning to bring about or forcing?
Good question. I would say that he...
That's where my question of the authority comes in. If he's making people do this.
Yeah, let's look that up real quick.
Okay.
That's a good question. So that is 13:12, right?
Yes.
Revelation 13:12. Okay, in the Greek it says, "And the authority of the first beast, all it exercises on behalf of it and causes the earth." Poie. It's to make, do, I make, manufacture, construct, I do, act, cause, to make, do. certain synonyms would be causes, commits.
Compels, and then another definition to bring forth.
Yours,
So it
yeah,
could be-
compelled.
It could be like a combination of influence and kind of forced intent behind it as well. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. I mean, yeah. Think about a guy that's causing fire to come down out of the sky, right? and it seems like he's not going to have much of a. I don't think he's going to have much of a pushback.
right.
When people see these signs that he's doing and these wonders that he does, they're going to want to follow.
Right. And well, also what's important about what you were saying with the buy and sell mark is that, like the digital currency you're talking about, if said leader of whatever currency sees that you're purchasing or doing business with people that they don't agree with, that's where also that influence of control or pushing you towards the thing. It's like, oh, if you buy and sell here, we're kind of gonna, not that you do that anymore. So that's kind of where make might come in certain
Right.
instances.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it.
Because they can, if they control the money and the food and all of those things, they can pretty much make you do whatever you want.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and there's to make a path is another definition for this. In Mark 2:23, it came to pass on the Sabbath, is passing through the grain fields, and the disciples of him began the way to make a way, plucking the heads of grain. So they're making a path through the grain field as they're plucking the grains on the Sabbath, and then that's when the Pharisees attacked him and said that you're working on the Sabbath. But that word poiein is to make, or to make a path.
Okay.
But yeah, causing. Yeah, it's interesting when you think about how we are caused to do things like that. Like you were saying, we're not really like. It's kind of like we're just kind of being nudged along, just kind of.
Yeah, you kind of said something at the beginning. More and more and more, we make ourselves dependent upon the government.
Right.
We depend more and more and more upon the government. And at this point in time, we're not talking about the United States and Canada, the United States and Mexico. We're talking about an entity that has a little bit of power and control over everything.
Right, the whole
And
world.
so if one of those kind of people were to show up at your door with one of those kind of hats on,
Right.
most people would jump right in line.
Oh yeah.
Because at that point we're already, so.
Oh yeah. We're geared towards it, right?
So it's going to be a person that causes by something he says or something he acts to.
You think about it. We're all looking for a savior, right?
We're designed. We're created.
And so you'll see people even today. They're looking for President Trump to lead us, our savior, or some other big name politician or something of that nature to lead us.
So Jay, in my study Bible,
Uh-huh.
it says like for 13:11, kind of like you said, the second beast comes with horns like a lamb, and it says here, he attempts to appear gentle and harmless, but spoke as a dragon. See Jesus' warning in Matthew 7:15 about ravenous wolves who come in sheep's clothing.
Right.
So it's probably not as much that he makes them do it, but that he's charismatic and he appears to be innocent and that every word he says would be true,
Yeah.
would be in their best interest.
Yeah. Just as innocent as a little lamb, but with the mouth of a dragon. You know, it just kind of leads you.
He makes them do it without them knowing that he's
That's what I was leaning towards, more of the
Yeah.
influential,
Yeah.
kind of,
He's an-
like you said,
Well, he's an
nothing.
influencer.
Right.
Right.
And-
Oh yeah. There you go. That's he's an influencer.
Right.
Yeah. You see that today. These people making influencers, I can't understand it, making millions of dollars, influencing people. Now let me put a let me put a I don't know what the word would be. If you are, let me put it this way: if you do receive like medical from the government and things like that, which we do, we with Thello, I mean, we have to. We wouldn't be able to afford the medicines and things like that, but we're paying our taxes, and you know that's a service that we get, right? I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that I'm saying, you know, if you're taking from the government, you know, you're doing a horrible thing, you know, or that's not. You should be relying on God, right? Again, I think those services are there to help us, but I do think that they get corrupted. Let me put it that way. I think they're good intentions, but get corrupted in many ways. I think a lot of the money doesn't go to the people that it should go to. It goes to pockets in the upper echelon. But again, I think that I just want to clarify that, you know, if you do receive things from the government, whether it be checks or anything of that nature, I'm not coming down or poo-pooing that. All right, you do what you got to do. Like I said, when it comes to Thello, we have to. Some of his medicines are outrageous. We'd never be able to afford any of those medicines, and we would be dirt poor. But again, does that kind of clarify that I'm not coming down on any of that? If you do take those things, okay, those are there. Get them, use them, right? Because you need them, use them. You pay for it. God knows we pay for it. So anyway, does that kind of clear that up a little bit? Any more questions? I'm surprised you guys didn't ask me again what I thought 666 was.
What do you think?
I don't know. But we'll see when that time comes. Again, we'll talk about. We'll go into Revelation chapter 14 next week. I'm excited. We're moving closer and closer to Christ's ultimate coming, and I'm looking forward to that, getting there. Let's go to the Lord in prayer, and we'll head on out. Gracious God, we do thank you so much for your word. We thank you for the warnings. We thank you for giving us your word ahead of time so that we won't be disturbed or frightened when the time comes. That we will know and we will face it head on with the perseverance that comes through the Spirit that helps us to persevere. Lord, again, you will give us the strength. You will give us the courage. You will take care of us. You will provide for us. And we look forward to the day when we see you face to face. In Jesus' name, amen.